Time next for the business news here on France 24 with Kate Moody. Good evening, Kate.
Hi, Delana.
Donald Trump touting yet another trade victory.
Absolutely. He signed the US-Mexico-Canada trade deal, which replaces what he described as the nightmare NAFTA Accord of the 1990s. It won't take effect until Canada ratifies it, a process which could take months. Changes include the requirement of higher wages for some Mexican auto workers and a new dispute settlement mechanism for investors. Critics, meanwhile, say it doesn't do enough to address climate change. Well, the U.S. president hailed the deal as another sign that his disruptive trade policies are reaping rewards.
The USMCA is the largest, fairest, most balanced and modern trade agreement ever achieved. This is a colossal victory for our farmers, ranchers, energy workers, factory workers, and American workers in all 50 states, and you could almost say beyond, because it's all beyond. This is all over the world, even though it's at one beautiful border.
Worth pointing out, perhaps, that there are, in fact, two borders between the U.S. and Mexico and the U.S. and Canada. Well, Boeing has unveiled the financial cost of the 737 MAX safety scandal, and it's pushed the company to a loss for the first time in over 2 decades. The crisis has cost America's biggest exporter far more than initially estimated. Cami Nedlek explains.
Boeing has hit historic turbulence. Its quarterly earnings report reveals its first annual loss in over 20 years, down $636 million for the year. In the last quarter of 2019, the company saw a 37% drop in revenue from the year before. Its dramatic reversal of fortunes began with the grounding of its 737 MAX model in March 2019, following 2 plane crashes that killed 346 people.
We recognise that we have a lot of work to do. We are focused on returning the 737 MAX to service safely and restoring the long-standing trust that the Boeing brand represents with the flying public.
That looks set to be a long and painful process. Boeing has temporarily halted production of the entire MAX fleet while continuing software upgrades to convince regulators and airlines that it is safe to fly. The crisis is now expected to cost Boeing a total of almost $19 billion, more than double its previous estimate. The plane maker says it will pay out over $8 billion to airlines due to unfulfilled orders, and will also have to absorb an extra $6.3 billion over the production cycle of the MAX plane, as well as $4 billion of abnormal production costs in 2020. That includes keeping its rent and employees on the payroll, even as the factory temporarily closed its doors, and the cost of getting production going again. But there was a welcome bit of news for Boeing earlier this week, as its 777-9 took to the skies for the first time. Due to enter service in 2021, it will be the world's largest twin-engine jetliner.
The U.S. Federal Reserve has kept its federal funds rate on hold between 1.5% and 1.75%. The decision was widely expected after 3 consecutive rate cuts in 2019. President Trump has urged even lower rates, which he claims will encourage further economic growth. The central bank said it was still hoping to get inflation to, not near, its 2% target. The Bank of England will now be centre stage on Thursday. Chances of a rate cut there are considered higher as the British economy stagnates. Let's check in on the day's trading action now. Boeing shares plunged immediately after it reported those earnings, but they've recovered to trade up a little bit over 2% now. Apple shares have hit a new record high after reporting blockbuster earnings. The Nasdaq up about 1/3 of a percentage point this hour. The major European indices closed slightly higher. We saw the CAC 40 getting a boost from an unexpected uptick in French consumer confidence for the month of January. The corporate reaction to the Chinese-based coronavirus has intensified. Airlines, retailers, fast food chains, and theme parks are scaling back their presence in China as authorities warn against travel to limit the spread of the virus. Karis Garland reports.
The Lunar New Year holiday is normally a time where hordes of people flock to shops and cinemas and spend lots of money. But in the year of the rat, the outbreak of the newly identified coronavirus is causing people to stay at home. The Chinese tourism industry is expected to take a hit, with sites like the Forbidden City and the Great Wall closed due to concerns over the deadly virus.
I feel sad, very sad, because I was planning this trip a long time ago and then this happened and then I didn't know what to do. and now I have to go back early to my home. And I couldn't even see the places that I wanted.
British Airways announced it's halting all flights to China, joining 2 other airlines to do so, Lufthansa and Lion Air. Other companies like American Airlines, Air France and Cathay Pacific have cut back their flights to the country. But some say there's more at stake than the economy.
Coronavirus prevention is definitely the top priority. The economy is a small matter for a country as big as ours. Everyone has contributed to coronavirus prevention costs. Many enterprises and successful people are donating money to the infected areas. The money is not a big deal for our country.
Coffee giant Starbucks said it expected a significant earnings hit, closing about half of its stores in China. IKEA and McDonald's have also closed stores, while automaker Toyota said its Chinese plants would close until at least February 9.
The US Secretary of State has arrived in London to urge the government to reconsider its decision to allow Huawei a limited role in the development of 5G technology. Mike Pompeo told reporters en route there was a chance he could persuade his British counterpart to take America's security concerns more seriously. The Trump administration has urged its allies to blacklist the Chinese tech giant because of its close ties to Beijing. Analysts say Washington could link the issue to negotiations on a trade deal with the UK, due to begin after Brexit becomes official at the end of the week. Meanwhile, the European Union has also stopped short of banning Huawei as it issued its own guidelines for fifth-generation mobile networks. Without naming the Chinese company, EU officials said that high-risk suppliers would be prevented from working with sensitive parts of the network. The UK has also blocked Huawei from what it describes as the core. EU officials said they were aware of the risks and would assess the company's bids for work.
As many critical services will depend on 5G, ensuring the security of networks is of highest strategic importance for the entire European Union. The cybersecurity threats, including the risk of interference by non-EU states or state-backed actors, are becoming more sophisticated and more widespread.
A ban on motorbike taxis is threatening to take a toll on the economy of Lagos, Nigeria. The ban is set to take effect in just a few days. Opponents say it will put the livelihoods of thousands of drivers in peril.
In this sprawling city of 20 million people, for many it's their main way to get around.
When I want to go to work, sometimes there might be traffic. And this keke and motorcycles are another alternative. They are a fast alternative for me to get to work on time.
In Lagos, Nigeria, these kekes and okadas, as they are known, are everywhere and are a fast way to navigate around the city's notorious gridlock. But starting on February 1st, the state government is imposing a sweeping ban on the motorbike taxis, citing a number of fatal accidents in recent years. For drivers, the ban threatens a key source of income and a way of life often passed down for generations.
Some of our people, they reach 40 years, 30 years, 20 years for a year. And now if they say they ban Okada and they don't get any work where they are doing now.
The unemployment rate in Nigeria is 23%, and government officials have warned it could reach 30% this year. With Okadas, thousands of young men have found a way of making a living. Some worry the ban could have unintended consequences.
It will create another crime for the state. So let them at least benefit a little bit more. Let them create a job for them before they ban those things.
Lagos has tried to ban Okadas before from main roads and bridges, but enforcement was lax. This time, again, may prove a challenge for the government, with so many invested in this way to get around.
That's all the business news for now, Delano.
Thank you very much for that, Kate. Kate Moody there with tonight's business news.